Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. This is an episode of Friendly Talks and the first episode. I'm joined today by my beloved brother Nadir from Islam by Touch. And as you might have seen on the thumbnail, our special guest here is Heather. Assalamu alaikum to you both.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome,
Heather,
salam
you there? All
alaikum.
right, you there, Heather. Good. Yes, sir.
So Heather's joined us today, alhamdulillah, to share her story on her journey to Islam. So, obviously being Ramadan, we're also working with a number of brothers and sisters out there in different communities and sharing their stories. And so we're kicking off with our first friendly talk, and happens to be a journey to Islam. And my beloved brother Nadir will be co-hosting with me on this one. So Heather, we got a chance to briefly talk backstage, but sort of just to sort of let the audience know as they're coming in. As I understand it, you were born in a Christian household, because we normally start at the base. So you were born into a Christian household. Is that correct?
Yeah, Irish Catholic family from Louisiana.
Alhamdulillah. Okay, so being in that sort of household environment, so you kind of family were practicing, church going, or what was it like growing up in that environment?
It was interesting because when I was growing up, the church kept changing the rules, and it was like about how you practice and you worship God, and I really didn't feel connected because I only felt connected on Sundays, and then the religious classes weren't accessible, so I didn't feel like part of their community. So I just did because it was expected, because I'm in Louisiana, New Orleans, your church is your thing in Louisiana, so that's why I did, because my mom wanted me to do it.
So,
okay.
a question for you. You said that the rules kept changing, right? Like what can you give us an example of like one of those rules that just like kind of changed? You're like, wait, I thought we had to do it this way. Like, what can you give an example of that?
It was that you didn't have to kneel to pray, you could stand to pray. That the holy days of obligation changed. Oh my gosh, I can't remember.
I mean, I think those are two big things. You know what I mean? Imagine,
yeah.
Imagine a mufti came out tomorrow and said, "Yeah, bro, no more sajda and salah." You know what I mean? Everyone were like, wait, what? Wait, huh? What happened? All right, friendly, go for it.
And then you didn't have to. Suddenly you don't have to. You're supposed to during Rent that you didn't have to not eat meat on Fridays, but Fridays during Lent you're supposed to only eat fish, and you don't have to eat fish on the holy days, about like Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, and they're always changing. Oh, they keep changing the rules and making lax, and oh, the Pope said this and the Pope said that, and I was like, okay, why did it change 1 year to 1 year? So I was like, okay, this doesn't make sense.
All right, so that's interesting. So then you found yourself sort of disconnected in a way that not understanding why the changes were happening, and then obviously going through the line of succession and getting orders from the Pope, essentially having changes or different things being implemented.
And it said that I had to believe in something because the church said I had to believe in. I was like, what about God? Like, what does he say? And they're like, oh, if you don't believe in the church, you don't have faith. And the priest, I talked to the priest about it, and he's like, well, obviously you don't have faith. And he left the room. So I didn't believe in the church because I'm like, why am I believing into man-made thing instead of believing with God? Like, why we only pray on Sundays, and why you have to why you play this rosary, and like, what's the point? Like, it didn't sound, I was like, okay, what's the connection? So after they told me I didn't have faith because I didn't believe in the church, I just that's when I decided, hey, this isn't for me anymore.
Okay. So, but you're still obviously in the environment. You're growing up. You're going through to high school, um, and then on to sort of university. But in that time, sort of, are you sort of practicing, but sort of there, but not really connected? Are you aware of other religions? Are you aware of Islam at the time at all, or is it very much you're in a I think a Christian type atmosphere?
Yeah, my aunt was Buddhist, because I called her my aunt in the South, somebody who's older than you, and it was really close to family, you call it aunt and uncle. So she was my aunt's nurse, but she was from Thailand, so she was Buddhist. So she used to take me to the temple day at the temple, and then she used to take me where the monks came to bless the house, and I was aware of that. And my other part of the family is Southern Baptist. My uncles are Southern Baptist, and um, you know, I have an appreciation of all cultures. Like I was not like I just described that my way was the right way. I just didn't get that. Like my neighbors are Jewish. And I used to go on Hanukkah, go visit my neighbors and everything, and I just was really exposed to a lot of things. My mom was always making me exposed to everything and be accepting other people and other cultures and embracing differences.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So, any early stages of you knowing about Islam, or any thoughts about Islam, or at that time, or not so much?
Yeah, in the university, the only thing I tell you, the only thing that I learned about Islam was that the women were oppressed and that there were second class citizens, and they weren't allowed to speak up. And that's what they told us at the university. My professor, he's like,
Okay.
that was his profession. And then I was like, no, that can't be right. So then I started learning on my own.
Okay. So you were in a university. Was it a Catholic university or a Christian university? I don't know what the um.
Yeah,
Proper
it's a
terminology is.
Marinus Catholic University.
Okay. Cool. And so, all right. So obviously, you're learning from your professor essentially, and he's telling you about Islam and what it's like in Islam, and the women are oppressed and second class citizens. Okay, anything else
Mhm.
that you were sort of taught about Islam, or anything, any other
Um,
lessons that the professor would sort of
that's
lay out?
that's the that's the main thing the professor kept stressing, and that we had to walk behind the men, and that the women were oppressed, and they couldn't speak out for themselves. And I thought that was wrong, and that's why I went to that lecture at St. Mary's, and then the imam and the sister came and told me straight what Islam was about. And I
Oh,
was like, I thought it was going to be better. Like it was not like what the professor said. So I started doubting everything my professors told me after that.
You also mentioned watching some program or something like that before, right?
Yeah, BBC4. This is 9/11. 9/11 happened. I was overseas when it happened. So
Mhm. You were in the
they
UK.
talked the yeah, I was in the
Okay,
UK.
real quick, Heather,
oh,
real quick.
oh, that's why she can understand what I'm saying so well. Okay, great.
Yeah, real quick, Heather. Oreos are cookies or biscuits?
Biscuits.
Oh, come
Oh,
on. Oh, friendly, you got a point there.
Heather is a wonderful woman indeed, an educated woman also,
And
clearly.
Okay. So yeah, tell us about your time in London. So you watched this program, you were in London, you were studying abroad, right?
yes, I was studying abroad. As a part of my international relations uh, degree, and when you had to study abroad. So I was in London for 9/11, and it was a different experience. We thought we had lack of accessibility in the United States, and it was totally inaccessible when I was there. Like nobody who's blind went to college there at the time. They actually interviewed me from the BBC to ask me how I go to college. How am I traveling by myself? Why don't I have somebody with me. I was like, I'm part of the National Federation of the Blind. I go where I want to go, and blindness is respectable to be blind. And and she's like, oh, well, how do you speak the language? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, blind people don't speak our language. I'm like, really? What language do blind people speak in
English?
London? So I can never get that out of my mind. Like I sat on the phone with the girl interviewing me, and I was like, what do you mean I don't speak English? Like what? But they didn't have access to accessible technology. There's no like when you go to the library, they didn't have like JAWS or Windows or Kurzweil 1000. You had to go to a charity just to get equipment and services, and you got equipment, but you don't get the funding for the school, so you're kind of halfway there. So a lot of blind people that go to school, I don't know if it's changed now, but there are a lot of people that couldn't go to school because they only got equipment, but they wouldn't get the grant to go to school. And then their schools don't have the accessible technology like we do here. I had to bring my own computer with the screen reader on it because there's no access when I was in London.
And real quick, Heather, what's your condition, if you don't mind?
What's what?
Your visual impairment. Which condition do you have?
Oh, I was in the hospital. The nurse came in the hospital with the chicken pox, and then I was born premature, so I contracted encephalitis, and it damaged my retinas and my optic nerve.
So you've been totally blind since birth, correct?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Just to kind of clarify, because we really didn't hit on the blindness thing until you started talking about accessibility. So I just want to just let the viewers know that yes, Heather is blind. And then we can keep going. Okay, so you were in the UK, you saw this program on BBC4. What were they saying? Because this happened right, you were in UK during 9/11 when 9/11 happened.
Yeah.
So what were you seeing on this program from the BBC?
Yeah, it was actually a radio broadcast. It was big. Usually that story time came on around 9 p.m. at UK through the BBC4. And they were talking about how like they're demonizing Muslims, but nobody's demonizing the IRA, because at that time the IRA was still active. It was before the Good Friday agreements. And we were told like we couldn't be careful when you go past trash cans because they might explode. And they're talking how the IRA was still active. So how come they could blame Muslims for what 9/11 was when nobody talks about how the IRA does all this violence against regular British citizens just because they're not Catholic. That the Catholic and the Protestant fight. They discussed that on the BBC, and it makes you think like, how come they're demonizing Muslims and they weren't even responsible. They had nothing to do with it. So that every Irish is gonna bomb you because of Holy Mother Church. It's so you can't deem all Irish citizens because that's not every person who's Irish is a part of IRA. Not every Muslim is part of Al Qaeda.
No, of course.
Some don't know what Al Qaeda is because that's all political.
Yep, absolutely. Let's move forward, inshallah.
So at the time, you mentioned just at the beginning there that you were part of the federation. When you were being interviewed.
Yeah, the National Federation of the Blind. You want to talk a little more about that, Heather? NFB.
Yeah. I was part of the National Federation of the Blind. I found them in 1999 when I went to the Louisiana Center for the Blind. And I went to Atlanta. That's when I had their convention in Atlanta, and that's when I found about how they fought for rights of blind people, like to having access to books. Back then, we didn't really have access to books. We didn't have rights to books. You had to get copyright permission, and that's changing now. But back then, the copyright didn't want to let you copy their book. Then they could stop you, but now they can't. So I was really big on that, and I was there when voting rights access was when I marched in Capitol Hill to halls of Congress talking to John McCain, Senator John McCain. He was one of the helped us to get accessible voting in place, and And then I know it's doing everything like we do like inclusion and everything. There's nothing that a blind person can't do. Like you limit yourself by saying no. So I was always big. If somebody told me no, I just did it. I'm like, oh really? I'm gonna show you kind of thing.
That's how it is.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. It was amazing. So that's part of your journey, and then so let's go back to your journey in Islam then. So at the time, so you're at this college, university, and also you mentioned that you wanted to get extra credits, and that's how you sort of deepened your studies on Islam. Or I know we were talking about that backstage. So tell us a little bit about that. So you're at your university at the time, and you're in need of some extra credits, and then you entered in some further studies.
Yeah, they have this thing at St. Mary's University. It's called the President's Peace Commission. So they always pick a hot topic, and they talk about how to peacefully resolve issues. And right then is when everybody was deeming all the Muslims and every Middle Eastern was a terrorist. So my president of the university decided we're going to have a peace commission to talk about Islam in the Middle East and how they're not exclusive. Like, yes, Islam's from the Middle East, but not every Muslim's an Arab. And it was like, so that was a preconception that people had, was that if you're Muslim, you're an Arab, but it's not true. So he had it. So talk about like the Islam in the Middle East and Islam in Spain and Islam like in Africa and Islam in like all these different places. So my friend and Imam at the time at the masjid, they came and talked to us about it. So I got to ask him questions after the thing, and then he didn't know where to get the accessible Braille Quran. So he gave me one of his Qurans he had like at his house, and he's like, "Oh, I'll give you this because I wanted to make it accessible to you, but I don't have a way to do it." And I just remember he gave it to me, like he came to the school just to give it to me. He's like, "This is my Quran, and I give it to you, sister, so that inshallah in the future you'll get accessible Quran." But I give this to intention so that I just want you to know that you're welcomed and that I wish I could do more for you.
And so that was the beginning start of your journey then, into sort
Yeah.
of learning about the Quran. And did you meet any other Muslims that were there to sort of guide you or talk to you or answer any questions?
Yes, Sister Nargis. I still talk to her, and she took me to another. It was a Trinity University, another Catholic university. So it's like, or the Protestant. I can't remember, but so we went to have another like the sisters. The actually sisters, the Catholic sisters, put on this thing during Trinity University, and they had a Muslim that was putting it on with them. So they did this whole exercise, and they give you a whole bunch of like it's like a sheet of different surahs and like the Bible and the Torah. So they gave you a list of the is this the Bible, is this Torah, this Quran, and you had to go pick out which one's which. And it turned out that they're all from all three. So I thought that was very interesting that they put that on, and then I was exposed to, that was my first exposure to Salat. And I heard you then, and you had the option to go or not go, and I was like, I have to go. And I was like, I literally like say, hey, let's go. Let's go. She's like talking, like, no, we gotta go pray. She's like, you're not Muslim yet. I was like, well, I heard you then, so let's go. And so I still have the scarf she gave me. I put on a scarf and my first time, and then I didn't want to take it off. And then she's like, you do realize that if you want to wear hijab, that she like, you have to be sure, because at that time people were still throwing bricks at us at the highway. They saw Muslim, because this is San Antonio at that time, military city. So she was worried about my safety, and I was like, You know, it said the Imam said that you should trust in Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if I'm trusting in Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala, I don't care what other people have to say. I don't care. And she's like, what's your family going to do? I was like, I don't care. So I took my shahada that next in 2003. They were still concerned about it. She was afraid what my family's going to do, and I kept saying I don't care. So
So
I took my shahada.
how long from when you first really learned about Islam, like, you know, that first exposure to the Imam, to until your shahada, how long was that? Like how many months or
Um,
years or?
well, it was in the conference was in November. I wanted to take it my shahada then, but they made me wait, and then I took my shahada that next. I think it was February 14th.
So you were ready to
And then
go,
I went.
like as soon as you heard about it, you were like, "Yeah, let's do this. I like this." You
I
know?
heard I heard the exam and I was like, I want to do it, but people kept telling me no. I was like, why are you telling me no? Why are you asking me if I really want to do
Subhanallah.
it?
Subhanallah.
So I didn't know how to pray or anything. Nobody taught me how to pray. I just learned on my own. I knew Surah Al-Fatiha, and I for the longest time that's the only thing I knew. Because nobody ever asked me, hey, can I teach you how to pray? Nobody. I had to learn to pray from other blind Muslims from my group that are overseas.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. So let's fast forward a bit then. So you're then you know, you come to Islam, mashallah, and so you know life then would have possibly changed for you also in terms of people you were around, and sort of what changed in life and what's been the journey in the last 20 years now, and also just a bit, you know, I know you've also written um you know, some articles about being a Muslim, and you know, dealing with being a, you know, essentially dealing with blindness and accessibility also, with the work that you do. So if you could just tell us a little bit about that and the journey, and what's been the gap, and also how you met our brother Nadir.
Um, I'm gonna be honest. When I became Muslim, I lost everything. I lost the accessibility aspect because when I was in the church, I had access to materials and I had access to my community. But when I took my shahada, you know, I trust in Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then I learned that I wasn't accepted in the Muslim community at all. I had to make my own space to be accessible. It was just I wasn't welcomed like you're supposed to be welcome you, and I just didn't get that. And as I didn't believe in Allah's subhanahu wa ta'ala so much, like I trust in him, and so I kept the deen, and I made my own space because I didn't really fit into Muslim community. They don't have the accessibility is not something that the Muslim community knows anything about, and that's what I've been struggling with for ever since I was Muslim. Like trying to have access to masjid. I was trying to, how do I get access to materials? Um, it's like other places, like, do you want access? Hey, here you go. We'll do it. Those Muslim community, oh, we don't know. We'll get back to you, and they never get back to me. So I was so happy when I met Brother Nadir, because when he said Islam by touch and he told me what it was all about, and I started crying because like I wanted this all this time to do it, and to have access, and I was like, finally we have a space in the community, like an inclusion. But I feel like we still have to force the inclusion aspect of Islam to Muslims, and I have to forge your own acceptance. And I don't get invited to go to have iftar with people. People always talk about how to go iftar to some places, or they eat celebrations. They don't. I don't. I only have one family who invited me for Eid, or maybe one sister will take me to the Taraweeh prayers, and I had to do it myself. And I had to get on the bus, and I remember I took when I was in Denver, when I was studying at Colorado Center for the Blind. I had to take two buses and a train just to get to the masjid. And then they kept, oh, sister, you don't have to go because you're blind. You're exempt. And I was like, really? Does it say that in the Quran? Show me where it says that. So They're like, oh, you really shouldn't go by yourself. And I was like, I don't understand. And people would like why are you telling a person who's Muslim that you don't have to do something when you try your best to do, like, to be part of the community? And it's like I felt like they didn't want me. I don't know. That's what I got. Like I was different, and they don't want to have anything to do with me. And then I tried to call them out on it. It's like, oh, you're making the Muslims look bad. And I was like, I'm not making you look bad. Your indifference makes you look bad. I didn't do anything. So that's the struggle I've been having for 20 years, is trying to not just make a space for myself, but I think of all people with disabilities. Like if somebody's deaf, like how come you don't have cart services? All the churches I know have cart services for the deaf. Every like the Catholic Church has Braille services for the liturgy. The Baptists have like sent 10 different Bibles that they give you, like, I swear to God, they try to give me a Bible every time I turn around in Braille. And even the Mormons, when they come to your door trying to preach to you, like if you're blind, they come back with a blind person to try to make you become a Mormon. And it's like, and
Really?
then Islam,
They came to you
yeah.
with a blind person, like, hey, look, we got a blind guy right here.
And, uh, so like, but when you come Muslim, it's like your whole identity changes, and you have to find your own identity. Because if you don't find your identity, if you don't believe in Islam, if you don't work for your deen, you'll lose it, just because you're just not accepted and you're kind of pushed out of the community. That's how I feel. That's how a lot of people feel. And Islam by Touch has really helped us all become a community. And the National Federation of the Blind has a blind Muslims group, and with NADIR, we forge our own identity. We're making our own space, and we're like trying to advocate for us and for all disabilities, but we're trying to advocate for our space for us, because blindness is, they say it's a low incidence handicap. That's what they told me when I was growing up. I was a low incidence handicap, and that's why they don't have accessibility. But but every disability deserves equal treatment. They need to have inclusion. I wish they had inclusion. I was the only Muslim that went to the interfaith dialogue, and Austin had this huge interfaith dialogue for all the communities of faith, and I was the only Muslim who showed up. They had people from the church, like the Mormon church, they had people from the Baptist church, the Methodist church, the Catholic church. They had even had the Buddhist monk would come to the meeting about making their communities more accessible, and I was the only Muslim at the whole thing that showed up, and I'm just like, where's my community? And actually, since they didn't have imams show up, the priest had to speak on behalf of the Muslims. He was very good. He's very knowledgeable, but I felt so ashamed. Like, where's my imam? Why didn't they show up? And I asked them to come, and they, oh sister, I'm busy. I don't have time.
Mm-hmm. They never have time. Subhanallah. Friendly, you want to chime in, inshallah?
Yeah, no, yeah, emotional Muslim activated now. No,
Yeah.
it's just it's such a and again, I'm meeting brother Nadir. We came into contact, and he's one of my most closest and beloved brothers. I mean, we have so much fun and laughter together, and trying to do certain projects together, etc. But it's been an eye opener also to understand what the trials and tribulations are of accessibility, and how important the work is, and alhamdulillah, that your dedication, your resilience, your deen, your commitment to coming, and your journey to Islam all ties into that, and has brought us together here to share the story also, so it does benefit our brothers and sisters to understand, and to be aware. And I think awareness has always been the key. And it's something, inshallah, that, as we go forward, we have the power of the internet also, to let people know, to share, and to support. But yeah, no, alhamdulillah, just it's so I just see how important the work is, and making awareness is,
SubhanAllah.
you know.
SubhanAllah, I want to just kind of comment on Heather here. Heather is probably one of the most motivated and determined people like we've ever met. Like both me and Yadida are just kind of blown away by Heather because Heather doesn't stop. You know what I mean? Like Heather's like, oh well, I did research on this and that, and she's continuously trying to find accessible resources for you know different members in the groups that we're in, and it's always Heather. Like Heather's always there with the new resource, with this, yo, check this out, check that out. And if she wants us to look at something, it's like, oh, look at this, look at that. And subhanallah, she's alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, it was a blessing that we had the ability to meet her and build a friendship with her. And alhamdulillah, you know, she's a very important of the entire blind Muslim community, specifically the ones that we're involved in. MashaAllah.
Alhamdulillah. That yeah, and so may that continue. I mean, it's been a short one. Obviously, in Ramadan we're highlighting, and you know, this is something we're going to be going forward with, you know, ongoing. You know, because I've been talking to Brother NADIR for, you know, a good 4 to 5, maybe 6 months now. You
Yeah,
know,
about
and so this
yeah.
is something that's going to be ongoing, um, as we go forward. So beyond Ramadan, you know, monthly, we're going to be having these conversations. We're going to be bringing awareness. You know, we're going to be having conversations, and interfaith dialogue, and you know, panels within our own Muslim brothers and sisters also, and saying, well, what are we doing? You know, what are we doing, and how can we do better? And so that's
Is anybody leaving questions? If anybody wanted to ask questions to Heather about her journey, or you or I or anyone like that, if anyone wants to ask any questions, inshallah. Unless you wanted to wrap it up, friendly. I just stepped all over your toes, bro. I'm sorry.
no. I mean, if there are, for Heather, being our guest, also, if there is any questions out there, we're welcome to take them out, or put them forward. But I think the feedback has been great, and it's been a great little segment to sort of just get in tune for knowing what's going on in the community, and what we need to do better, and how we need to raise awareness. But I think we really covered most of the aspects on there.
Yeah.
I'm going to, what we'll do, there are other causes, and Assalamu alaikum to our brother Kov FF also. And we are streaming to Kov FF channel also. He's also at the moment raising funds for a refurbishment of a masjid in Ethiopia, basically. I'll be sharing the video, and we'll be doing some outreach on that also. But if you are wanting to donate to that project also, you can do PayPal also, and we've given the details out. But also on top of that, you know, building the masjid is one thing. Also, making accessible information is something that Islam by Touch does. Also, brother. So, would you like to tell everyone a bit about the work that you're doing, and what's going on also, or
Yeah, of course. So you know, myself being the co-founder of Islam by Touch, myself and my wife, we're both blind. I'm partially blind. My wife is totally blind. She is also a convert or revert, or whatever term you like to prefer, you know, whatever you prefer. And we have Islam by Touch here, which is you know, the only organization in North America like really dedicated to making Islam accessible and available to the blind community. We have done this, or we are doing this in different ways. So we're doing this by providing the English meanings of the Quran in Braille, which is also properly edited and formatted, you know, properly. So blind people aren't hit with something they don't recognize whenever they open up this book, right? You may have other Braille books that have some sort of Islamic knowledge in it, whether it be an English translation of the Quran or something like that. But generally, it's just somebody sending it to a printer and printing it and then binding it and giving it out, right? No organization. Whereas we actually took the time to actually put it together properly, because we are blind, so we know how blind people read, how blind people consume their information. So we do that. We do Islamic Q&As with mashaykh from all over the world with blind Muslims. So we'll have a Zoom meeting and invite this sheikh or scholar or student of knowledge in there to do a Q&A, because one complaint we have from the Muslim community is that they have no access to the blind Muslim community, is that they have no access to Muslim leadership. We do da'wah to the blind community. So we go to national blind conventions, like that National Federation of the Blind Convention. They have a national one coming up in July. And I was just in the one I was the one in Texas a couple months back in November. We set up a da'wah booth there with blind accessible materials. So materials in Braille and large print, digital format on a flash drive. And then during Ramadan, alhamdulillah, we're doing some great things during Ramadan. Every night we host a live Taraweeh program with our beloved Sheikh bin Deem. And he is hosting this so that everyone who is blind, who is disabled, who is unable to go and attend a masjid, right, who can't attend a masjid or doesn't feel comfortable in the masjid because they get treated like they don't want to be, like they're not wanted there. We have this Taraweeh so that we can all join as a community and pray together, right? Even though we're not physically together, we can all still be together and feel each other in that way. And then we're also doing live Quran every day with our brother Ibrahim Abdullah ibn Salim from Panama, who is reciting one juz a day every single day. Alhamdulillah. So make sure everyone goes checks that out on the Islam by Touch channel. And we do so much more. It's just that's all I can think of right now. So
Mashallah. Thank you, brother, and thank you, Heather, also. And again, everyone out there, you can donate and support Islam by Touch. Again, we've put the website out there, and you can go directly to there. The link will also be in the description, inshallah. And yeah, I think that is a wrap for us today. But go and support Islam by Touch on the YouTube channel. All the social links are out there. Again, me and the brother are on TikTok, Twitter. Everywhere you're going to find Friendly Muslim, you're going to find Islam by Touch, and we're out there spreading this word, inshallah. So, any final words, Heather? Any final words for the audience, or anything you'd like to shout out to anybody at all?
or any final words, anything like that? Yeah.
Inshallah, I just want to tell all Muslims out there, just because you don't see somebody with disability doesn't mean they don't exist. Just to take the time to talk to your people around you. Don't just be in your own clique. You reach out to people, because they might be sitting in a corner by themselves because they're not they're not able to contact you, because if you're blind, you can't see them, like they're making eye contact with you. Or I have a friend who has cerebral palsy, and people people have other disabilities, and they just look at you like you're strange. But all Allah's creation, and they're still Muslims. They should be welcomed and included, not excluded from their communities.
Well said. I couldn't have said it better myself.
No, thank you for that, and thank you thank you for joining us today. Inshallah, we'll get other opportunities to have different conversations, or inshallah, become part of our panel. And when we're having different conversations out there, it'd be lovely to have you back and contribute also, inshallah. Brother Nadir, any final words as we wrap up then?
No, I think we're good, man. Just go make sure you support Islam by Touch any way you can, inshallah. Go to the website, and just like Heather said, you see blind, disabled people, Muslim or non-Muslim, just know that they are human beings. They have feelings just like you do, and it's a very easy thing to do, right? Where Rasulullah said that if you would love to enter Jannah, and if you would love to be protected from the fire, then treat others the way that you would love to be treated. It's not hard. So may Allah grant us that wisdom, and Barakallah Feek Friendly for being with us and hosting us today. Jazakallah khair. It's it's not the first, and it definitely won't be the last.
Inshallah, inshallah. So, brothers and sisters, and anyone that's joined us, thank you so much for joining us. As my brother said, this is the first. It will not be the last. The conversations will keep going. And so, until the next time, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.